Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 34.
Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Don Cardenas, and I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all thawed out after this crazy weather this entire country of the United States has been experiencing. And it's been kind of nuts. You know, spring's around the corner, though. Things are warming up. You know, we all have, hopefully have some, good stuff to look forward to. Past couple weeks have been pretty interesting for me, project-wise, especially this past week where, something kind of, was, approached to me or, pitched to me, and I instantly was like, yes, I need to do this project. It was with, someone been wanting to do a project with for a very long time, and, after some failed starts on my end, it seems like this one's probably going to go pretty fast. It's going to get rolling pretty good. I'm really excited about it. I have a couple other gigs that I'm waiting for some approvals on to just start rolling on that. So I am, just really busy. not really expected to. It's this weird feeling right now where I have a lot of stuff that's coming up. I don't have the green light to work on it yet. So I'm just like, what do I do with myself? I started to work on some more emissary stuff. I started to kind of finalize the writing for that so I can attack that and have that book finally finished and out there. And yeah, so now I got a new project to start doing all the preliminary work on, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a really, really cool, fun project. But I just had a few days there where I was like, do I relax now? What do I do? And of course I did not. But, that's the story, right? I have been managing to read, more comics than I have ever before. There's a lot of great stuff coming out, and I kind of want to talk about all of it, but there's one that I read that I really need to talk about now because it kind of fits perfectly with some other stuff I'm going to be talking about in the episode. And I'm just going to stop trying to be vague about it and just get right to it. So this week's comic book recommendation is the Black Metal Omnibus by Rick Spears and Chuck Beebe, published by Oni Press. This book has been long on my to-read list. I've had the first volume for many years, and I have a very terrible habit, like many of us, of getting books and not reading them with the intent to read them, and it just kind of sat on my bookshelf, wanting to be read, needing to be read. And one day I just finally okay, I gotta do this already. I gotta read it. So I did, and I was kind of blown away, and I'm like, well, obviously I need the rest of the volumes. So a quick search online, I was able to see that they had a whole omnibus with, the B in omnibus being a V appropriately. And I just went ahead and ordered it because it was a really great price and all that, but I had to finish this story. So Black Metal is the story of Sean and Sam Stronghand, who are misunderstood twins with a mysterious lineage and a penchant for the darkest of metal. When they acquired the latest Frost Axe album, that one's got me tongue tied even in my brain. Frost Axe. They, of course, they fall in love with this album from this, black metal band they've never heard of, and of course they have the instant inclination to play it backwards. So after they do that, it's revealed that these two brothers have a link to a huge, grim, dark destiny, and they end up acquiring the legendary Soul of Atoll, and it's crazy. After they get that, they set out on this epic quest, or more like are thrust upon this epic quest that literally takes you through heaven and hell, and it's just huge. It's a huge story. It was a much bigger story than I expected it to be. To be honest, when I first bought this, I just saw the cover, I saw the art style, and I'm like, this looks like it'll be fun. At the very least, I'm sure I'll get some chuckles out of this. and it ended up being something completely different than what I expected. I also kind of was worried that this book would be kind of a one note, or just kind of hammering the same joke over and over again. Yeah, I was very wrong. I was just beyond wrong. The book infuses a ton of heart and humor for what could just be a bunch of evil and cool instances and tropes happening and things like that. And nothing emphasizes the amount of care that went into this book than the strongest part of the book, which is the characters and the relationships. And when you think of a book called Black Metal, you don't necessarily think of character relationships being this, cornerstone of the story, but it completely is, and it is so well done, and it just adds so much to this crazy story. There's a thing about black metal in general, and just dark satanic stuff in general, that kind of gets me a little eye rolly, and but it's also the same thing that it's the same thing that triggers my same reaction to overtly Christian rock music, or that type of movies or media, which is kind of yeah, I get it, you're super evil, or yeah, I get it, super Christian, I get it, it's easy to lose me that way. And I was a little bit worried that this book might swing too hard, anti this or pro this or vice versa, and I was again wrong, and very pleasantly glad that I was wrong. That Rick, Chuck, and the rest of the team, they took a fun concept, these black metal teenager twins that just find this epic sword and are thrust upon a quest where they're linked to this huge destiny, and you literally go through heaven and hell and demons and explore this huge mythos, and it's just incredibly epic, yet it really has a ton of personal moments in there that just you wouldn't expect in a story like this in general. This definitely feels like a concept album for sure, and it's it's an epic black metal concept album just made comic, and I was completely floored by it. I was so glad that I got the omnibus, kicking myself for waiting this long to read it. I do have to give a huge shout out to the art. Chuck Beebe, he's Eisner Award winning, he's an amazing artist, and his style is very animated and expressive, but even when it gets to the gore and stuff like that, it's not overtly cartoonish. When characters are ripped open or cut, you could tell there's pain there. It's not over the top in that way. But when it does go over the top, it does it fantastically. I think though, in volume 3 of the series, there's a shift to his art that just kind of it's Chuck hit full gear. He's on all cylinders. Things tighten up a lot, and not that it's loose or messy or anything remotely like that. Just this is an additional tightness to his work, and he's just firing on all cylinders, and he loses none of the dynamics or the expressiveness that he's laid down before. It's just a new level, and there's a metaphysical sequence that kind of happens that it's just stellar. And once again, that sequence alone shows this book is just way bigger and deeper than I would have ever expected. So yeah, I don't know if I've expressed how much of a surprise this book was to me in its scope, but it's expertly done. It's an awesome story. It has a ton of cool stuff, a lot of cool violent gory things, but also a lot of heart, a lot of great characterization, and a really great story. And it's not mean-spirited at all, which is another thing that really kept me engaged in the story. Bad things happen, and there's opinions on certain aspects of religions, on both sides, and it's never mean-spirited. It's just kind of an exploration of these things and these beings and characters that are been represented in this mythos, and it's just fantastic. I think I don't know how many more adjectives I can come up with. I'm gonna have to get my thesaurus out if I'm gonna keep talking about this book. It's just fantastic. You need to go to your local comic shop, give them a call, see if they they can get it in for you. I know it's available on online sellers, but I'm gonna ask people to go get it from their local comic shop, because it's such a great book, and I now have to seek out everything else these guys have done and find out and get that in, because they've definitely made a fan here. So, Black Metal Omnibus, Oni Press, go get it. Okay, so for the music recommendation, I am going with another Chuck Beebe project, and that is the debut album from Nosk of the Void, which is Chuck's solo black metal project. The album is called Nosk of the Void, Nosk, and the project, the band, is called Nosk of the Void. It takes inspiration from the side-scrolling game Hollow Knight, which is something I've heard a lot about, but I've not had the opportunity to play. And this is also I believe the first black metal album I have ever featured on the show. And as I mentioned before, black metal kind of has a, it can be hit and miss for me. It's not something I have a lot of reference for or a lot of reverence for. I think the over earnestness of some of the darker stuff is a bit of a barrier for me. So, a lot of not great people have made black metal, but there's something kind of, though, endlessly kind of like fascinating about people who do make black metal. There's a documentary I watched that was about these guys, just these solo guys just making these like black metal albums that are so highly revered, and I got to figure out what the name of that was again, because someone else shared that to me for me, and I had to find it again because it was just really fascinating. Just these guys just seeming like just for the most part regular people, and they got these crazy albums they're making. So, but yeah, black metal is just not something I've really taken to a lot. There's a lot of things I appreciate about black metal, the lo-fi nature of the recordings, and just kind of the immediacy and just kind of the rawness of a lot of that is something that's really grown. I've really grown to appreciate. I'm still not 100% with a lot of the high screeching vocals, but it's not a deal breaker. If a band project has that or whatever. I do like some of the black metal stuff that's not all just pure noise and bass drums and screeching. I like stuff to mix it up a little bit, and Nosk of the Void is one of those that just kind of, Chuck managed to take everything that I do like about black metal and just kind of distill it into one album, and I am so here for it. He made a pretty damn epic 37 minutes of music here. It's lo-fi enough to bring that heavy, black metal vibe, and it's got the raspy pain vocals, nothing high screechy or nothing, but it's also mixing with some haunting clean passages and vocals, and it has that biggest thing I think that black metal needs for me to enjoy, and that's the feeling of it being kind of ethereal. The songs, they have sections that just like absolutely pummel you, but it's really contrasted with these repeating melodies and these just kind of almost dirges that just kind of lull you into almost like a hypnotic kind of feeling, and it presents that kind of like ethereal, dreamlike, or nightmare-like, if you wish, kind of quality that I appreciate from the genre. It if someone didn't like black metal or is like, I don't know about black metal, what would you suggest? I'm no expert, but this is what I would present to them. I think, just like the black metal omnibus book, Chuck managed to put together something that exceeds, what my idea of it is. And I am, super glad that I came across this album. I had the great pleasure of actually connecting with Chuck BB on Twitter. I'll be tagging him in this. I don't know if he's gonna listen to this, but if not, hey Chuck, it's great meeting you on Twitter. Hopefully we can, figure out some timing and get you on the show. But yeah, Chuck, is, my brief interaction with him, he's just seems like an awesome dude. And I'm really hoping I can get him on the show and talk to him. I'm just glad to, again, just have found this album. It's something different than I've been listening to, and I'm grateful for that. You can hear Nosk of the Void on most music services right now, but I suggest you go to Bandcamp. Slide at least the $5 minimum to Chuck and get it from there. And if you do that, try to do it on one of the Bandcamp Fridays, where they let artists keep all the earnings from their sales. The upcoming dates for that are March 5th and April 2nd. So that should be a week from this release and then a month after that. And Chuck also has offering cassettes of this. And, if you listen to our previous show with guest Matt Miner, cassettes are kind of becoming a thing again. And, if releasing a black metal album on a cassette, it fits the vibe perfectly. So, and it's selling it for I think it was only $8. It's this album's worth $10-15 for the download, but he's only offering it for $5. So yeah, go to Bandcamp, look up Nosk of the Void, give Chuck your money. You're gonna get some sweet ass music in turn. As far as favorite tracks go, I think Tell Me / Oldtimer is probably the most played I've had. It's the most, I think, laid back. It's very dirgy and plotting, and just it's a good mood. It's a good mood. But I think if I was gonna give someone an idea of what to expect from this album and kind of lull them in, I'd play the debut track that is Rest Eternal. I think that would be a gateway for a lot of the folks. So here is a small snippet of that now. Okay, so on to my guest. As you may know, my guest this week is the writer Phillip Butehorn. Phil and I, we've about to celebrate about a year of knowing each other. Phil kind of helped me kind of relaunch a lot of a work I was trying to do, and as I've mentioned before, I had the Patreon for my book Emissary, and that kind of fizzled out when it didn't feel right after a few months of trying to just get it done. It didn't feel like the right format or the right fit for me, and I was doing wanted to go back and kind of do some more short stories, and Phil's been a consistent person with that, pulling me in to do a bunch of stuff, and it's been great working with him. He's a great guy, he's a great writer, he's got a lot of great sensibilities. And this is the first time he and I actually get to have a full-on conversation, despite having worked on multiple stories throughout the past year, and multiple more after this, I'm sure. Phil's a great guy. We have a great chat about some long gone restaurants. We talk about the joys of making comics and like the feeling of like getting your comics out there and how kind of awesome that is, and just like a whole ton more. Phil's again a great dude, and I am so glad he our paths crossed, and I was able to do some really fun stories with him and help him get his crazy little visions out into the world. So yeah, here we go. Phillip Butehorn. Let's roll. Okay, so I've had at this point 33, 34 guests on the show, and I have yet to have any writers that I've worked a ton with on and collaborated with, and I am kind of excited to kind of like go into that kind of conversation right now. But before we do any of that, Phillip Butehorn, I have to ask you, Comics Coffee Metal, what are you digging right now?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks, Tom. Very excited. All right, so let's talk comics. I'm going to say I was digging Amazing Spider-Man for a little bit with the Kindred storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Are you reading Spider-Man at all or no?
No, I'm right now. All my time in reading comics is either reading old stuff that I picked up cheap on Comixology, or reading my friends' comics that come out that I'm putting through for Kickstarters. So I'm drastically behind a lot of Big Two stuff. I've considered getting, trying to spring for the Marvel Unlimited thing for, a birthday present for myself or something like that, but I haven't pulled the trigger quite yet.
Yeah. So with Spider-Man, this story's been going on almost like 2 years. Kindred, he's like that big villain. There's quite a twist about who it was. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it yet. But literally, I would say last 5 issues, nothing's happened. The reason for the villain attacking Spider-Man is simply, I hate you, Spider-Man. I hate you, Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So I was kind of disappointed by that. Besides Marvel, I got the Future State, which I think is really cool over at DC Comics. It's a fresh take on. It's kind of, to be honest, it's like Marvel 2099, but DC.
Okay.
But
okay.
the time range is insane. Like I think some of them are like 2025, some of them are like 2039, and then Swamp Thing is like hundreds of years from now.
Oh, that's interesting.
And there's a Black Adam storyline that includes Grant Morrison's Justice League from like Justice League 3000. I think that's the title. I'm not sure. Which is the backstory. Oh, who's it the backstory for? I can't think of it on the top of my head, but it's a backstory for one of the comics. I think it's actually Suicide Squad.
Okay.
Which the Black Adam should have its own book because it's Black Adam and it's Justice League 3000, which is kind of cool.
That sounds cool. So, yeah, I've heard a lot about the Future State thing, and you basically billing it as Marvel, like 2099, which was extremely my jam back in the day. I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe I need to try to check this out. I heard a lot of good things about the Aquaman and the Wonder Woman, so I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. You got Michael Conrad. Jolie. I can't think of her last name. For Wonder Woman, that's Diana
Joelle Jones.
Yes, Jolie Jones, I believe. And then for the other Wonder Woman, it's the new Wonder Woman. She's from Brazil.
Mm-hmm. So
it's like her origin story, and she's kind of like traveling through hell, like Dante Inferno, which is kind of cool. Okay. So that's not that bad. That's actually kind of cool. Then you got Batman. You have your typical Batman. It's futuristic Batman. He's dead, but no, it turns out he's alive. But overall, Future State is definitely interesting, to say the least. What else? What else for? Oh, Nailbiter by Image Comics.
Okay.
Josh Williamson. So this is the sequel. This is fascinating. This is almost kind of a new level, a little sci-fi in it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about that series. A buddy of mine and former guest, Joe Mulvey, he's super into Nailbiter. And it was always, whenever he would post like fan art from it or whatever, I'm like, I should really check this out. But yeah, again, I like to keep on top of comic news and what's happening with the characters and all that, but actually getting to read a lot of the books kind of, it's the old thing where when you're making them and you're doing stuff in the medium or related to comics, you end up like losing time to actually enjoy them.
Oh,
So
I totally agree with you.
I'll have to re up my nail biter up on my list of checking it out. So
Yeah, definitely check that out. That's a fun book. For coffee, which I'm drinking right now, even though it's 10:44, I feel like I had to drink it for this podcast. Black coffee. Black coffee is my jam. Always have been, always will be.
I applaud you. Not for me. I've tried. I'm going to be giving it another go actually very soon. Just go straight black coffee. But what kind of brand do you like? Do you have a specific?
It doesn't matter. It's yeah, it's.
Are you the type of person who can like just drink like the most just like rundown?
Oh no, I can't do rundown.
Gas station coffee.
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay.
I think I I did that once with 7-Eleven, and I'm not trying to say like I'm 1% when it comes to coffee. That's not how it is. But I think I had like one bad experience with the 7-Eleven coffee, and I was like, never again. So I'll do my Starbucks or my Dunkin' Donuts. But the only reason I went to Starbucks, I used to work in Jamaica, Queens, so it was either Dunkin' Donuts or really a deli, right, where it's kind of like rundown coffee for like 50 cents, and then when Starbucks arrived, even though it was pricey, it was like heaven for a little while I was in Jamaica, Queens.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's well, everyone I've spoken to who is a fan of the just whatever garbage water you find at a gas station, well, as long as it's can legally be called coffee, they know what it is. There's no snobbery here. It's like, coffee is one of those things where I can honestly say that it like what you like, but if there's a definite noticeable quality boost.
No, you're right.
You could like I don't like if someone wants to go and like eat a Big Mac, go for it, man. That doesn't necessarily mean if you go get like a Five Guys burger or a Culver's burger or something, it's not going to be like just objectively it's better.
No, you understand.
It's just made better. So
how far you said you are north of Chicago, right?
Yeah, I'm about 35 miles
how
north
far
of Chicago.
from Canada?
Still pretty far.
Still pretty far, right? I'm trying to think of my map. I can't. Anyways, what is the Canadian coffee?
Tim Hortons?
Yes, that is the greatest coffee I've ever had. Honestly, the greatest coffee I've ever had. So
I've heard lots of great things about that.
So good.
Well, I've mentioned my favorite coffee here plenty of times. It's the Rootless coffee, damn fine cup of coffee blend, and it's really great. So is
it make your own? Is that how that works? How's that like?
Well, they'll send you bags pre-ground.
Okay.
But my wife and I love it so much, we just like every 5 weeks we order a 5-pound bag of beans, and we have a small grinder, so I'll just grind up a few days ahead of time and put it in an airtight container and then just do it that way. But yeah, if you're just going to order a bag, like a 12-ounce bag or something like that, or a pound, I don't know, do you do pounds or 12 ounces? I forget, or is it 15 ounces, something like that? Then I would just get the ground because you use it like in a week anyway. So
yeah, that
I'm not super fancy with the coffee, but it's like once I find something like I don't drink, if not even expensive, like I did the math. So if you buy like a mid-level brand grocery store coffee like a Javalia or even like some Starbucks or Dominick's Dunkin' Donuts. Dominick's is a defunct grocery store that I used to work at. For some reason, it came in my brain. Doing the math, I'm like, it's actually only a few bucks more if I get this big bag of really good coffee. So
whenever I'm in the city, I try to treat myself to like something like fancy coffee. I'll get black coffee, but it's gotta be somewhere different.
Yeah, well, it is one of those things where it's like you wouldn't think about it, or you wouldn't really, unless you're like active, an active coffee drinker. But it's like there's all these different varieties, all these different blends, all these different, just even the roasting and stuff like that. Because my wife and I were big fans of. I know, and it's probably blasphemy at your end of the country, but we like Einstein bagels.
What are Einstein bagels? Tell me more.
It's a bagel chain.
Oh,
and I know the New York area is very specific about their bagels.
Long Island. Yeah.
So, but we like their bagels. They're really good, and they had really good coffee. And then they recently like teamed up with what's that company? Caribou.
I know that. That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's another bigger chain and all that. And it was just like such noticeable downgrade. So like whenever we were going to get our bagels every weekend, it was just like, I guess we'll get this coffee too. But like, again, I'm not a coffee snob, but I do have preferences. So.
I could drink diner coffee all day long.
Well, I've definitely been to some diner type places that it's like, wow, that's actually really good coffee.
Yeah.
And I've been to places where it's like, oh my god, I I need something else to wash this out of my mouth. So
that's how I feel about. So when I used to work in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, then this is like the projects, right? The hood in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I would go to the delis, and that coffee, like you pay like 50 cents, you're just getting coffee that's black and thick, and like really thick. You're like, wow, this tastes like lava.
It's just to get you going.
Just to, yeah,
it's a necessity.
Ooh, I feel it.
It was a means to an end, I guess.
Yeah.
I've definitely had some coffees like that too, but I'm not a lifelong coffee drinker. I've started like maybe 15 years ago or so, and I was a big tea drinker, or I still like tea and soda and all that, but once I had some coffee I liked, I was like, oh, this is it. Okay, I know, I understand it now.
Yeah, all of college I didn't drink it. College students, it's either the coffee or the energy drinks, right? So it was probably energy drinks for me. And then wasn't until after I graduated from college, I went to SUNY Plattsburgh, graduated 2010. Because it was the recession, I had to get a job as a waiter, which I Ruby Tuesdays altogether, I think I worked for like 10 years. Right after high school, all of college, and then after college. And that's when I started drinking coffee. Because, you know what, I'm in my early 20s, I'm hungover, serving grandmas and grandpas. And I was like, to wake myself up, I had a coffee and everything. I've been in love.
So you said you worked at
like 22 years old.
You said you worked at a Ruby Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Oh man, the only one in our area closed down, and I miss it.
Oh, I did this, and then one of my bosses, Steve Roberts, rest in peace, good guy. He almost tried to make me a cook, and then at one point I was a salad bar person. Mm-hmm. I hated doing the salad bar because I was a mess. I just had like ranch and dressings on me, and all the food. I had to make the potato salad.
Yeah, that's one of the things I missed about having Ruby Tuesdays is making the salads that are in no way considered healthy. It's like, well, like a quarter pound of bacon bits. That's a salad, right?
Yeah. So I would show up like 30 minutes early for my shift, and go in like one of the corners where they couldn't really see you as when like the boss would come to the front, and then the corners on the left and right are blocked by the walls. So I'd just be eating there my salad, trying to sneak in the salad. Sometimes I get caught, sometimes I wouldn't. What did you have a favorite burger there at Ruby Tuesdays? That's what it used to be. It used to be a burger joint. And seafood.
Yeah. They had a blue cheeseburger that I liked. Was it the blue cheeseburger? Or there's another one I think that had like onion ring, like crispy onions on it, and like
Smokehouse
a barbecue
burger.
sauce. Yeah. I think it was that
Smokehouse burger, so good. And then if you did,
and the fries are really good too.
If you did the prime burger, but sub smokehouse toppings, greatest burger ever. The prime burger was like this 100% sirloin. Like they tried to like. No pun intended, but beef up the ingredients of the burger, so it seemed healthier but leaner and just delicious. So that burger was a special burger when they first.
I've definitely had the prime burger, but I didn't do this. See, now I'm missing it even more. I could have had that opportunity. It's gone. It's gone. I don't even know where the nearest Ruby Tuesdays is anymore.
I think there's one near me. I want to say Deer Park. That's about like 20 minutes. I haven't gone to Ruby Tuesdays since I got married. I got married in 2017.
Okay.
It's been a few years for me.
All right. So, we've talked about coffee. We've talked about comics. Now, I know you're not a big metal guy or really a metal guy at all.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm like that old man, get off my lawn. What are they saying? I sound like my father. It's good. But yeah, I grew up Long Island. Late 90s, early 2000s was the punk scene here in Long Island. Take It Back Sunday, Dashboard Confessionals. Those were two really popular bands from Long Island. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did not listen to those two bands. Instead, I listened to Good Charlotte, Blink-182. People are going to judge me, but Simple Plan.
I don't think so. I think we've gotten to a point to where it's been long enough where those, even those three bands, there's plenty of nostalgic respect for that.
Yeah, well, especially Blink-182, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's the original 90s punk band, right? They go back as far as 94. My wife, who was also...
Well, a lot of people would argue Green Day, but that's,
Yeah, no, you make a good point there. No, you make a good point.
It is really, I'm a few years older than you, so it's definitely, if someone's like, oh, the biggest punk band when you're in high school, that's Green Day. Like, no. I was in high school from 96 to 2000, so it's like,
okay,
right,
that makes
yeah. So if you got into high school like from 98 on, I think, then you're gonna say Blink-182.
2001, freshman year.
Yeah, so you're gonna go from there. You're gonna go like, okay, well, I see Blink-182.
Yeah, because Newfound Glory. So we used to have a
your freshman year was like the height of like
yes
all of that.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I would say so in high school we had all the cliques. We had the popular kids, we had the emo kids, we had what we call the page students. Those are the students that now in freshman year I was scared of these kids because these kids are the kids that are like tatted up, piercings, hairs are crazy. They actually had their own hallway. The page students, and the reason for that is, I guess, they were the kids who didn't want to stay in school, but the teachers, wanted to work with them, make sure they graduate high school. Okay. But that was the punk music on Long Island in the 90s is what pretty much put, kind of united all the cliques together.
That's cool.
Yeah. We had the Crazy Donkey and the Downtown, and that's where all these Dashboard Confessional, Take It Back Sunday became popular.
Okay. So, what are you listening to right now? What's like the last record you put on?
Record? You know what? I just listened to David Bowie with my son.
Okay.
And I'm not a big David. Growing up, maybe I listened to David Bowie. That's probably what my parents are playing. But I'm trying to get my son to listen to more music.
Yeah.
So I just listened to some David Bowie. My son, he's a 3-year-old, is obsessed. Loves Lady Gaga. And
it's very catchy stuff.
Yeah. So the inauguration just happened a few weeks ago, and my wife goes, "Hey, James, my son is 2 years old." She goes, "Hey, look, Lady Gaga's on TV," and he goes, "Wait, Lady Gaga's real?" He had no idea. He had no idea. He thought she was like a YouTube character.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, "What? Lady Gaga's real?" I was like, "Yeah, kid."
Yeah, my daughter's just, she's on the cusp of 5, which I am just terrified to think of. But she loves music, but like pop music and stuff. Whenever we try to like put some of that stuff on for her, she doesn't really care too much for it. She definitely likes all like the kids type songs. She definitely jams on that. But now she's like starting to make her own songs. like just today, like I was just like I was hanging out in her room with her, and I just started like tapping out a little drum beat, and she started just singing a dinosaur song. So I'm like, all right, cool. She's not super into the music just yet. But she's like really taken into dinosaurs and Godzilla and all that. So, my
Now,
influence is definitely showing in some places.
same with my son. And now, does your daughter, is she into YouTube and all that?
Yeah, but she's really into the kids YouTube
Yeah.
stuff and
So,
the usual cartoon stuff.
yeah.
So
So my son's big into YouTube. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if he is just smart enough and he does this, but the other day I was looking at my YouTube and I had something like 32 kid channels subscribed. So I don't know if he actually
they
follows the directions at the end when they say click and subscribe. But literally,
yeah,
my entire YouTube channel history is just subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And he is
yeah,
obsessed
it's yeah.
with
They
zombies. And I don't know if this is because of me. I really don't know, but he's obsessed with zombies. Anything horror, this kid just watches on YouTube.
wow, we gotta be careful with some of that. Some of that
Well,
stuff
it's
might.
all kid stuff. So it's like
Yeah,
Zombie Town,
Minecraft
Zombie
zombies.
Town.
Okay,
And he does ask
okay.
questions that sometimes these things do bring up questions like, Dad, how does a zombie happen? And Dad,
Uh,
where does it start? So I have to like make up stories.
okay. Well, there you go. He's making you workshop.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, one of my
Yeah.
stories I'm trying to work on, trying to pitch. It's called what's it called? Chalk Children,
Okay.
and it's something he started singing one day. He was Chalk Town. All the kids are walking around with like half a smile, laughing, and something along like that. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna turn that into a comic. So my plans to I kind of like to steal things from him because he's pretty smart about like creating like memes. The other day he was laughing so hard. He goes, "The Laugh-A-Dappers are getting me." I was like, "That's a good name. I'm gonna turn that into something."
uh, that's awesome. So speaking of creating stories, we've at this as of recording, we are collaborating on our what's that 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our fifth collaboration.
Wow, wow.
Our first
It's been
one
a
was
year.
yeah. In May, believe it was May. I think we did the math earlier. We did the Curtis versus Mr. Chocolate short. That was a lot of fun to do. It was a very time crunchy situation, but I was pretty happy with how that all came out. And then we did, so far the biggest one was Dinner with Blobby. um, and then I colored a short for you, and then I also inked and colored another short for you, which I'm happy to be your Swiss Army knife for comics. Like, so
So yeah,
it was fun experience doing all that.
So I actually
And
just the one that you colored was coronavirus. So
yeah,
that's part of Austin Janowski. Austin, if you listen to this, I apologize if I mispronounce your last name. So he's working for Scout Comics right now. He just had, I believe, his Snowman book, kids book. It was just on Kickstarter. I believe it's part of Scout Comics. He started the franchise Zombies Were Humans Too, and it's all about the stories about who these zombies were before they were turned.
okay,
And the story you wrote is titled Coronavirus, and it's pretty much about a Karen who doesn't want to follow the rules during an epidemic, is trying to go out and get food, and the restaurant's understaffed, and her reaction to being told that her favorite meal they are out of her favorite meal, and that was your art I've noticed about, especially your colors. You put these small details into all the stories, especially coronavirus, where you had little blood specks throughout the panels, which I loved, especially on the car, because the first two
yeah,
pages, Karen's driving a car.
yeah. I appreciate that. No, it was a lot of fun working that more cartoonish, animated type of art style, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I can't go too far because if I had drawn those pages myself, it would have been, like a intestine wrapped around a wheel or something flapping around or something. It was like, but no, it's a little more subdued. So what's the little effect I could do to like just make it slightly horrific with these, in contrast with the very nice and like open art.
Yeah, the artist for that was Tricia Del Pear, and it was kind of like it was a little anime, her art, which I really liked. It's something I haven't used before in my stories. So that was kind of a fun thing to be part of. And I don't have a date yet for that Kickstarter. That's going to be, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I think it was a good fit for the story. And because it's nice to have that kind of, dichotomy of, this zombie-esque and a little bit of gore here and there, and just having the art style not be something that's as dark and gritty as would normally be associated with that. So,
yeah, the zombie. Without spoiling the zombie, I originally wanted something like a spatula going through the zombie's cheek. I had this whole idea in my head, like the spatula was keeping the face from falling apart. But she came out and her take of the zombie at the end was very interesting. It's not the type of zombie I've seen before. So for those,
it was very cool. It was very cool, and I can't wait for people to see that because, again, it was this on a personal level for myself, like it is so far removed from what I do, line art wise, that it was really like just exercising different parts of my brain, just trying to figure out how to color this without ruining it because I really like that style and I appreciate the work that went behind it. So it's like I don't want to mess this up, which was like triple fold when I actually had to ink and color the story Jack Goes to Hollywood for you.
Yeah, so Jack Goes to Hollywood is part of the Modern Mythology Season 2. So for those who are not familiar with it, Caleb Pataquest, he did, what's his most recent book? I have it right here, Unicorn Vampire Hunter. Issue 1 just came out. I think issue 1 and 2 will be kickstarted, I want to say end of February, early March. And he organized the creators for Modern Mythology. Ryan Kroboff brought me on as a writer. Now that Modern Mythology is my first published story, which occurred, I want to say 2019. So it's modern heroes or villains with a modern day twist. And for my thing, I did a Water Jar Boy, which is a Native American mythology character. And what I did, I turned the Water Jar Boy into a water bottle. And it's the end of the world. The people blame him, the water bottle, on causing the end of the world. And it's him being chased through the city.
Oh, that's cool.
So I brought you on to do the story. Oh my God, I can't think of it. The monster. Spring Hill Jack. So he's like the myth from England that some people think is Jack the Ripper. Goes and kills people. And Kurt Blatcher was the artist. And I brought you on to do the colors. And the whole thing is, what if Dracula was real and his reaction to a movie like Twilight? How would he react to that? And that's what I did with Spring Hill Jack.
Yeah, and I also inked that story, which was interesting because Kurt's colors, Kurt's line art, his pencils. Again, it's different from what I do. So like inking this different style and then coloring it, that was like an additional layer. Like, man, I don't want to mess this up because it's I don't even know how to describe Kurt's style. It's
so Kurt's style I would describe as heavy, and the way I describe it as that, it's a little gothic. He plays the way he plays with his dark colors is very What can I compare it to? I would say if you take like a Zack Snyder movie, right? Something like say Man of Steel, and you made it and you took away the colors. Sorry, if you took away the light colors, that's what Kurt's art looks like.
Okay.
It's very specific. It's I would call it grungy.
Yeah, yeah, grungy. I think grungy is a good term. Grungy, but not like messy.
No, no, not messy, but yeah, grungy is how I would determine it. And your colors, what I like about your colors, your ink and your colors, you brought out details that you don't see until there's a layer of color on it.
Yeah, that was it was a lot of fun, kind of like just discovering some of the stuff he drew in the pencils while I'm inking it, and then looking at it again while I'm coloring. I'm like, oh wow, like he there's I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a panel and the second page, the last panel of the second page, where someone's walking into an office, and there's a scene in the office where it's like, that was just kind of like, oh, what's this? What's this? What's
Yeah.
this little thing here? And then the first page was a lot of fun too, with some of the background details that he put in there to try to like define them, but keep you know keep it all looking cohesive and all that, nothing looking too funky. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. And then now we're working on a fifth story where I'm doing the pencils and inks and colors, which I don't know if you want to talk about it now.
Yeah, we can absolutely talk about that. So for that, this is going to be part of what's it called? My God, Monster Mania, Volume 2. The organizer is Ed Howlett. Ed actually brought me on to do his Kickstarter last year. Heroes Need Masks, and the money we made on that Kickstarter, he donated that to a healthcare charity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you and I are doing a story about the purple dragon, and well, I think I can use the hero without really spoiling anything else. King Arthur,
Yeah.
but with a modern twist.
Yeah, a very modern twist. I think a very cool twist. I was like, oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah, it's kind of
not that you. It takes much for you to convince me. Considering I now have a basis of like, Phil's got a story. I'm like, well, just one thing I really appreciate about your stories is you kind of have not an overt like humor, but there's like a dark comic sensibility under a lot of it. It kind of reminds me of like almost kind of like the early Tim Burton stuff, like just that kind of mood some of it creates, where it's just like it's entertaining, and you could find funny and humor in parts of it, but it's also kind of gothic, kind of dark, kind of it's not all bright and shiny. There's some sadness to some of the stories, I really respond to that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun drawing your stories. So yeah, it doesn't take much. So whenever I get the message from you like, hey, I got a thing, I'm like, well, I want to know what it is, but like unless it's like, oh, I need it next week. It's like I'm probably gonna say yeah. So.
Well, thank you. No, I love working with you. Your art, and I feel like your art just continues to level up with every story, especially with what you did with the dragon and King Arthur's look.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I normally send you like layouts and stuff. Like here's a story, but I was putting a lot of work into figuring out what King Arthur's going to look like in this setting, what that dragon's going to look like in this setting, what makes sense, while keeping spirit to the thing we're paying homage to and all that. And someone's like, I'm just going to do this and surprise him, and fingers crossed he's not like, this is not what I want at all.
So I don't know if you've noticed online, especially with the indie creators, but it looks like there's like a sword. Swords are very popular right now in indie comic.
Because swords are awesome.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it took me a second to really just fully embrace, not just embrace your sword, but look at it and examine it, because what you did is just nothing I've seen for a sword before, and I love it.
Well, it comes from some very cool direction from you. So
No, because
it's a
I even
50-50
think
credit
about what you did though, kind of without spoiling it, and you'll understand when you kind of bend the sword a little bit. The I didn't even think about doing that. I just thought, here's a street pole,
here. Yeah.
and we'll have the street sign at the end of it. But the way you turn it into a sword is marvelous. That's what I describe it as, marvelous.
I appreciate that. It was very much the thought process of myself of like, all right, if I were to do this, how would I do this? You know, what would I modify? How would I make this thing into this weapon? So, you know, hopefully your feeling is the same feeling other people will have when they see it. Again, it was a lot of fun, just brainstorming that, because you could have gone a bunch of different ways with it, and I had a couple other ideas where I'm like, it just didn't feel right. And then once I just kind of like did this one on the page, I'm like, there's a scene where he's drawing it for the first time, and that's like probably the first time I really drew it, that version. And I'm like, yeah, this fits. This is it. Okay, I got it.
I think this Kickstarter is going to be coming out, I want to say March, but I think if you have time, we should do something where on Twitter you got to post your original designs for the sword, because I think it'd be kind of cool to see what you thought it might be and what it ended up to be. If you have that anywhere, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's some snippets, because despite working digitally for this stuff, I have jotted down notes and little designs wherever I can in planners and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely something to do. That'd be fun once it launches to kind of give a little history of it.
Excellent. I'm very excited about that. I'm a process junkie, so I always want to know where ideas start, right? Like, what's the original? Mm-hmm. When you read something, what do you see at first, and how does that go from sketch to inked, and what changed in between? Did the character's face change? Did the character's body change? What inspired that transformation? I'm obsessed with that. I love that. That's something, for as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with. I'm all
about that stuff.
Movie commentary. I could fall asleep to it, and I say that not to say like, I want to sleep to that, but I want to listen.
No, it's very soothing. It's very
soothing.
Like, some people have ASMR stuff they listen to, and the little very quiet storytelling and the whispers and stuff like that kind of like scratches their itch, or I have, and I know my wife has. We've definitely like put on like Bob Ross reruns to fall asleep to. But my favorite, one of my favorite things to fall asleep to, actually, back when I had the luxury of putting on something to fall asleep to, was that show How It's Made. It's on the Science Network, but it's been replayed a whole bunch of places, and it's just one of those things where it's behind the scenes stuff. And I've been a process junkie for a very long time myself, and I can directly trace that back to having the legality of the cable that was in my household when I was growing up is up for grabs. But we had HBO, and they had these HBO First Looks, and it was like the half hour into whatever they wanted to show you on all that. And then before E became all about celebrity lifestyle and all that, it used to have like a lot of behind the scenes movie stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember? You probably remember this. I'm going to age us. MTV. What is behind? So I'm gonna say this. Like Britney Spears, when they used to do the music videos. I can't think of the title for. Behind the video.
Probably behind the video.
MTV,
that seems like the most.
Behind the video. Maybe it is behind the video. So I used to love watching that, because they they would give us like the making. Yeah, so it was making the video. They used to give us like a making of music videos when music videos were like movies.
Yeah, and growing up in the again my high school years being 96 to 2000, that was also prime like Metallica putting out like their year and a half of Life Metallica, where they're documenting recording the Black Album, the biggest album they've had and this huge massive seller throughout the years. So just like having that behind the scenes detail. And also I don't know how much further I'm going to date myself because I'm getting literal dates, but VH1 used to have this show called Pop-Up Video.
Yes.
And they would play a video, and then every few seconds it'd be a little, and it'd be like a little balloon bubble or whatever, giving some sort of random factoid about the artist, or about the video, or about things or people involved in the video or stuff like that. And I would watch that all the time, because it didn't care if I liked the music that was playing or not. I just liked hearing the backstories of things and finding out whatever little tidbits and stuff like that about things like that. So yeah, I'm process junkie for life.
I'm looking at right now. I googled VH1 behind the music. Yeah. 14 seasons.
Yeah.
God, I gotta see what year that first season.
I think I have some of those on VHS still.
I remember the first one I can remember is Poison. Okay. Bret Michaels. And him reuniting with one of his bandmates who I think he put like in a wheelchair or something. God, I feel. But yeah, I love that stuff all day long, every day. When I first started this journey, going all the way back to 2011, I was out of college. I was working as a server. I was going to grad school. I thought I could educate the world. And when I say that, I'm not sounding like a can I curse? Can I say like douchebag or no?
Yeah.
So I just thought I could make history fun for people. My friends always made fun of me for being obsessed with history, but we always had something to learn. So I wanted to go back because I did a year at community college just to get my grades up before I went to SUNY Plattsburgh. Took 2 semesters there, and I loved community college because one, I enjoy school, and I treated my first year at community college like college. So I did well there. So my goal when I graduated Plattsburgh was I'm going to get my master's in history, and then I'll go to a community college. But the issue was, one, it was a recession. So everyone in PhDs fell to community colleges. So I became a waiter for a few years. And then my best friend from high school, Brian Harris, we started this group called Illuminati. And it was a blog. So we're like, okay, what if we create a comic blog that talks about movies, something like The Nerdist. But then we somehow turned those fans into fans of our comics. So we were also writing comics at the same time. And we would put up the development of our synopsis, our characters. We would show sketches. Kelly Williams. I don't know if you're familiar with Kelly Williams.
Oh, yeah. Kelly's a buddy.
He and I and Brian, it was called Shepherd. So he did we got as far with him as a cover. And then he blew up, and that was it for working with him. But yeah, we had big plans for Shepherd, but then Kelly moved on to bigger and better things. And Brian and I, we had to get real jobs, move away from the restaurant business, stop being waiters, and then we had to start families. So from 2011, so Brian and I lasted the Illuminati, I want to say until 2014, 2015. And then from 2015 to 2018, I hooked up with Tyler James from Comic Tribe. I worked there. They had a few created newsletters. I run the I Love Horror Comics site on Facebook. And then I joined Tyler's Comic Launch group. Great place for any creators listening. And if you're new, you've only been doing this for a year and a half, and you're struggling, you haven't networked, you've only maybe had one story published, join the Comic Launch. One, listen to their podcasts. If you want to get involved with crowdfunding projects, you'll learn a lot. But if you want to network and start creating your own name, your brand, it starts there. For me, that's where I went from. So 2019, I had one story published. In 2020, I want to say I had 6 stories published. And right now, 2021, I already have plans for at least 6 stories being published so far.
And there you go. Yeah, Tyler has been, a huge driving force. Tyler James has been a huge driving force, just like fostering community and fostering, sharing knowledge and being very giving in that, like, just helpful tips. And their podcast is great. There's a lot of great stuff in there, and you kind of brought up what I was going to ask you about is you do a real great job with the hustle, I think, and I immensely respect that. You're always, keeping, positivity going. You're always pumping up other creators. You have a few Facebook groups that you manage, it seems, and you kind of like embrace that idea of like just fostering communities to get behind things and to do that. And it's something I really respect. And yeah, I think it's really cool you do that. Is that something that kind of comes naturally to you? Just like kind of like, hey everybody, let's go do something awesome.
Yeah, you know what? So growing up, and this is not me, I always wanted to be in politics, but I didn't want to be the face. I wanted to be the guy behind, right? Chief of staff, create ideas, get people motivated, do more. But politics is a dirty world. So I did minor in political science, but I was like, wait, what am I doing? I want to make a difference. So yeah, I love creating stories. I love creating worlds and giving, and not just that, but I love spreading other people's stories and other people's characters. That's really all I want to do. If I could hit the lotto, I would honestly just spend my time writing, reading, and talking to people about their characters. That's what I want to do.
A very similar response to what I would have if money was no issue whatsoever. I would, spend all my time making my comics. I'd pay my friends to make the comics that I know they could do better than I could. It's just, you have a real authenticity to when you're, pumping stuff up and you're spreading, spreading the comic love around. So I think that's a great thing. Much like previous guests and mutual buddy Mario Candelaria.
With Mario, we I don't know if it was me. I don't know who did it, but we formed like a group of creators. It's me, Mario, James Ferguson from Horror DNA, and Matt Sumo, who actually is from Long Island. He and I, small world, but my cousin grew up with Matt. And Matt used to be the bouncer at a local bar I went to for years. So Matt and I probably ran into each other for years and had no idea until we were older. Like I moved out of Farmingdale, moved to Ronkonkoma. I don't know how we call ourselves the Corpsemen. Are you familiar? Hal Jordan, Guy, John Stewart, and Kyle. So we kind of, I know that sounds corny, but we consider ourselves the Corpsemen because the 4 of us are just trying to build each other up.
No, that's awesome. I think that's really important. It's a kind of a thing that has come up a lot on this podcast and previous podcasts, where it's just kind of like finding your tribe a little bit, and locking in together and just everybody pulling together to support each other, help promote each other, and sharpen your talents against each other, because it's incredibly important to have it, because just doing it on your own is incredibly isolating and it's incredibly difficult. You're just kind of like
no, you're absolutely right about that. And I want to be honest, our generation of creators, I honestly think, is the hardest working generation of creators ever. Now, I bet you every generation probably says this, but indie comics has grown so much these last few years. You have Jared Lujan. He did Dryfoot with Mad Cave Comics. He actually has a book coming out soon. I want to say it's Mexicans with Swords.
Actually, a little bit of a spoiler. I'll be speaking to Jared hopefully next month. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, he's got a comic coming out, and again, the sword scene. But these swords, I would compare his swords to, you know, the movie Dazed and Confused?
I'm familiar with it, but
okay, so there's this Ben Affleck's in it. It's Matt McConaughey, and they have these paddles, and they're chasing the freshmen around town one night with paddles. Look at Jared's swords. I don't know the artist who designed them, but they're the Dazed and Confused paddles meets just Excalibur, but to another level. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, it's you say that this generation is the hardest work. I think it can definitely be an argument can definitely be made for that. And I think it's not to knock previous generations who I'm sure worked very hard. It's just that now there's the tools for us to do it all ourselves and get it out there without a publisher. Mm-hmm. So now we take on those responsibilities and do that extra work to get that done via crowdfunding. You find your own printers, you get the quotes, you organize your own anthologies, you do all these things, and that's normally what a publisher would do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think it's a strong argument to say this generation is the hardest working, in that we have the opportunity to add that extra work onto ourselves. As someone who has done literally all that himself, from assembling a book together, coloring good portions of it, on top of doing the line art, doing some of the lettering and lettering edits, and finding printers and just organizing all that. It's a massive amount of work. It's incredibly good to learn, and I feel like I'm better for it. But yeah, it's an immense amount of work.
Yeah,
so, and that's again where finding your tribe comes in. Because if it's something you guys can all share the load on, if you guys are all collaborating on something and you all kind of assume your roles, you are working harder than the average writer would working for a publisher. But, it's a little bit easier because you got, someone else to fall back on, doing some of the other stuff.
No, you're absolutely right about that. I know some people, I don't know if this would happen, but you know how some movie directors are always like fan turned director. I mean, that's all of us, right? We all start as fans.
Yeah, we're
and I know that as we grow, our interests change. So for me, I used to love the DC Marvel, but they were from 2011, 2014 was straight Image Comics for me. To me, that was Image Comics' like highest point. And my goal was always to get a title published by Image, but that's not even the case anymore. Because for people to read my stories, they can just, these last few years, they can just hop on Kickstarter and one of the anthologies on there I'll be a part of. You and I will be a part of, which is phenomenal. I don't think that would have been the case 10 years ago.
No, it's definitely something, a few years ago where I was kind of deciding like what's my next steps into what I'm doing. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna, keep making my own thing, because doing shorts and all that, there seemed to be kind of like a lull with like anthologies and Kickstarters, and just like in this past year and a half, it seems like it's completely flipped. So now, I'm doing all these short stories with you, and I'm talking to other people about other short stories and stuff like that, and it seems like a fun, viable thing to spend my time doing, as opposed to like working on my one thing for half the year, putting it out there, for whatever the life cycle of that is, and then back to it, so like twice a year you're getting something out, as opposed to like, oh, every few months, hey, I got a new little something out, so
and
it's go ahead.
If you look at the last year, right? So DC and Marvel, they had Image, Boom Studios, the publisher said pencils down, right? But if you look at Kickstarters, so Kickstarter got rid of, I'm throwing out this number, it's probably not correct. I want to say they got rid of 30% of their staff from March to May, right? Because everything was under quarantine. But after May, again, I don't have these exact numbers. Look at all these Kickstarters these last few months, especially the Kickstarters from September, October, and November were insane. Every other day, I was putting out money.
I would even say, a good chunk of the money I've earned drawing your stories has gone back into other Kickstarters. And I'm thankful I can do that. I was glad to do it and support my friends' work and new people's work who I've not seen before. But since this Kickstarter kind of explosion happened, and I was thankful to be involved in a couple of these anthologies now, where it's because had I not been, I probably would have had a serious FOMO of all these books and stuff coming out, and man, maybe I should have just buckled down and planned for a Kickstarter once the pandemic hit and try to do my own little book or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's amazing, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And just now, I've my previous guests, John Westhoff and Bob Garnellis, longtime friends of mine, their Kickstarter they launched was funded, I think, within a week. And they're usually and not that they don't have success when they put things out, but it's usually gets close to the end date before they're getting their funding going and all that. And same thing with my buddy Steve Bryant. His newest Athena Voltaire Kickstarter was funded I'm going to be speaking to him. Actually, his episode will be coming out before this one, but it's I'm okay, it got funded almost almost immediately. And I messaged him, I'm dude, I'm amazed and so happy for you that it's funded. Now when we talk, it's a victory lap, as opposed to please go back this book. It's this book is funded, and it's been proven that the faster a book funds, the more successful it becomes, because there's that mental assurance from people who are just coming across it oh, this is already funded, so there must be something here, right? That people are attracted to and all that. So
no,
yeah, it's
exactly,
it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna, as a creator myself, I don't know, just because. So my daughter wasn't born until she was born June 30th of 2020. So from March to June, I was involved with 4 anthologies. One was on Indiegogo. The reason is because of Kickstarter has rules about charity.
Okay.
So we donated the money from it was the Housebound.
Yes.
Actually, that was our book. What am I saying? That was our book.
Yeah.
That was the book we were in, and it went to a charity. I want to say it was for comic creators, right? For their health benefits and all that. I don't know the exact name for the charity. So it was that one. It was the Heroes Need Masks. I did another one about pandemic in panels. So it was pretty much stories about people dealing with everyday life, but in a pandemic. And then I did Zombies, We Are Humans 2, Volume 2. And that happened twice. So when that first went out, it was right in the middle of I think it was February. And we actually, Austin stopped it at first because we weren't going to meet the goal. And then he did it again, I want to say in June, and we met the goal within a week or two.
Wow.
But I rode that momentum because I had created 4 stories. I was like, I can't stop now. I have to keep this going. It was an adrenaline rush. It was just so much fun. One, being able to go on Twitter and Facebook, being, hey, check out this story I wrote. And then I did 13 Moon with Phoebe Xavier. My artist, who what is his name? JMA, who I have actually not met. Phoebe had hooked me up with him. His art is very gothic, but again, when it comes to details, I'll have to send you the art, Don. I don't know if you've seen it. 13 Moon. It's my story about. I used to take the Long Island Railroad to Jamaica, and this story is kind of like the drunk train. My experience of being on the drunk train. In my 20s as a stupid kid, and then as a 30s, being a worker and dealing with stupid kids. And the story, the drunk train, but it's actually a train going to hell, full of demons on it, leaving the world of the living. So that happened also in 2020. So I had to ride this momentum, and it was just so much fun. I'm like, wow, I'm now a published writer.
Yeah, it's having your first thing come out is like such a rush, and it doesn't. I'm sure there's people who now well established people who are like, yeah, I got a new book out, it's cool. That rush is probably a bit diminished because it's happening so often for them. But I've put out 6 single issues of trade, and a bunch of various short stories and anthologies. It's still, a rush to have like, this is done, it's out, and then actually getting people responding to it. there's definitely it definitely ticks that little it pumps that extra little bit of dopamine into your brain, like, yes.
Yeah, I had someone randomly, I don't know where he got my book, Modern Mythology, but what's his name? I want to say it's K. He's actually another creator, and he the best thing about it was he tweeted me directly. Casey Christensen. He does Team Up in Space, Turbo Thrust. I think he's from New York as well. And it was the first time someone who has picked up a book that I've been in just tweeted at me directly saying, "Hey, loved your story." It was kind of like, sometimes I know people are always like, "Oh, we don't need a pat in the back," but we do need a pat in the back. We need to know people are reading our stories. We need to know that our stories, they're not, making a difference. Maybe it's just that's saying too much, but someone who just enjoys our story, it's great to hear that. And as a writer, I want to hear that. I want to know people like my stories.
Just a simple like, oh, I read your story, I liked it. Just that is enough. Where it's like, oh, I didn't waste your time and you enjoyed it. Awesome. Like, it was, not every comment. We don't need every comment to be like, oh my God, this line you wrote or this panel you drew, it changed my life. Like, no, that's not. That's not the exchange that is expected. It's usually just like, even if someone's just like,
I'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be a
I'll
bad
brag to
thing.
my friends. I'm like, hey guys, my story made a difference. What have you done lately? No, I would totally do that.
But just someone just simply enjoying it. It's just like awesome. It feels like you put some force of good into the world then, and it wasn't a completely selfish exercise to get this done.
When I first started this, I just wanted to give my son the opportunity to read stories that I wrote. I wanted to be honest, I wanted to prove to him that anything is possible. That's all I wanted to do my entire life, prove anything is impossible. And I have definitely achieved that 100%. Not to get too personal, but when I was little, I had tubes in my ear, and I was delayed in hearing as well as language. I had to go to a special school for preschool. And then when I want to say 4th grade, 5th grade, Miss Hype, she might have been a wonderful teacher. I barely remember, but I remember her my mom always would tell me the story that she's like, your son, he's just so hyper. He's never going to graduate high school. I graduated high school. I went to college. I got a house. I have 2 kids. So my goal is always just keep leveling up. And I've leveled up as personally, and now I want to level up as a creator. So my first step was, hey, my son, I have a story for him, and my daughter, and I have a daughter. Hey, I have a story. You can read my stories when you're old. So now I need to level up where, okay, who am I writing for next? Now I've written for my family, but now I want to do something. I want to write for my town. I want to write for my state. I want people all across everywhere to say, hey, Phillip Butehorn story. Let me pick that up. That's what I really want to do.
That's awesome. And Phil, when it comes to ending a podcast, I can't think of a better place than here, because as a reader, I've enjoyed your stories. As a collaborator, I've greatly enjoyed working on your stories. And I greatly look forward to see whatever you're doing next, because you are leveling up and you are, pushing yourself and always trying to find that next, that next level of, where you can take things, how to push your own creative writing and your art. And again, it's awesome to see. It's awesome to have a part in helping you with that journey. And, you are definitely someone that, I'm lucky to have found and collaborated with. I consider that a very positive thing for my own career and leveling up. You've been very gracious to me with compliments about my work, and and it's iron sharpens iron. It's if I didn't have such great stuff to work off of, and inspire me to push myself a little bit more of what I'm doing, I wouldn't be getting better. So, Phil, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Don. Don, I want to share one thing. This is something I decided like 2 days ago. I want going from 2021 to 2022, I want comic readers to be like, I need that next Don and Phil story. That's what I want. I want someone to just say that to their buddy or their significant other, to say, yeah, I need Phil and Don's story now. That's what I want for us, because I think we are a great team and we're going to do great things together. So, and thank you for taking a chance on me. Honestly, you didn't have to, and you did. So I do appreciate that.
We could just go back and forth on that statement all night. And I don't disagree with that feeling of like, what? Yeah, what's going to be the next Phil Don joint? Like, what are we going to do? You have shared with me that Blobby's story ain't done yet.
No, I got plans. So, we'll talk, but I got plans. Yeah. 2 and 3. So, we definitely have a lot of genres we can go into next, and there's a lot of playground to go, and your mind is a very fertile place, and I appreciate that. And we're going to, and like I said, if Phil messages me, hey, I got this idea. It's like, I'm going to say yes, but I need a few more details just to see your egg, and that's all I'm going to say to the reader, let's say the readers, to the audience. I can't wait to see your egg.
Well, I'm going to beep this out, but just to get your reaction, it's going to make. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Very excited. Very excited.
Phil, if you could let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, on Instagram, I am Philly Sneeze. The only reason I had that title is because my last one was Philly Breeze, and I just decided to make it Philly Sneeze. And on Twitter, you can just find me at the Luminerdi. And that is it.
There you go. Phil is a very worthy follow for your social medias, especially on Twitter. And again, Phil, thank you for coming on. And I can't wait to show you what you've inspired me to do with your story. And hopefully everyone will be just as jazzed about it as we are.
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Comics Coffee Metal podcast. If you'd like to support the show, please consider subscribing via your favorite podcast player, sharing links to the episodes via social media when they post, or consider going to ko-fi.com/comicscoffeemetal. That's coffee.com/comicscoffeemetal. All funds raised for the show go towards equipment upgrades and promotion. Thanks for listening.